Hey everybody, it's Tony the Blacksmithing Gamer, and here we do everything from blacksmithing to 3D printing to bring the things inside the video games into the real world. This week, we are going back to what we were playing for the Christmas special this year, which was Cthulhu Saves Christmas. Now, it's an 8-bit game, so the models weren't this detailed, but I did find a gentleman online that did some fan art for Cthulhu, whether it was for that game or not, and this is based off of his drawing, so this is the Cthulhu Sword, I'm going to say in honor of Cthulhu Saves Christmas. Let's get started, I'll show you how we made it. I'm super excited how this piece looks. This is the hilt of Cthulhu blade. Let's take a look. I think it's going to look really cool once it's all lit up and everything. So let's get it off the bed, get the next piece on, keep printing. Alright, so we have the pieces of the Sword of Cthulhu all printed up. I have to remove a whole bunch of support material off of it still. As soon as I'm done that, we'll start with the assembly. We're going to use some 2-part epoxy, and I'm going to try a few different techniques on this build for the paint. I'm going to use some texture on it. But let's get to removing the support material first. Let's get to that. Alright, so we're going to start attaching all the sword together. I did have a little bit of, you got a little bit more cleaning up to do. But just so you know what I'm using to attach all the pieces together, it is 2-part epoxy. So obviously this little container doesn't have much left in it, but I got a few of these. So basically I just, while I pre-mix it, I put it on all the pieces where I need to. I put in this case I'm using some old coat hanger for doweling. And so I cut that, put it in there, and epoxy, stick it there for 5 minutes, and go on to the next piece. So let's get to attaching everything. Looking good so far. So one thing to just be aware of when you're putting these two pieces together, they are not the same. So you'll notice that the one side is actually thicker than the other. Just make sure to line that up with the lower piece, because it won't look good if you do that wrong. And we'll just wait 5 minutes for that to set holding it. We have the Sword of Cthulhu up, ready for paint. It's pretty chilly in here, so I'm going to be quick. I'm going to try something a little different. I want to add a little bit of texture on the blade. So I'm going to use some rocker guard. Normally what this is like an undercoating or a truck bed coating. I used to have an old truck that I pretty much covered in this stuff because, well, I didn't really care about it, and I was driving through the bush off-roading with it. I don't have that truck anymore, so I don't really have much of a use for this, so I might as well use it on Cthulhu over here. So it is pretty gunky, sticky, so you know, if you're using this stuff, just be aware. It's probably going to be messy. Actually, I should probably put something on the backstop. So shake it up a bit. Let's get to texturizing. I'm going to do it on the ground, actually. Well, that sucks. So upon further examination of the sword here, I think what happened was the actual epoxy hadn't fully cured yet. So basically I had kind of gone into the shop and hung it up and started playing with it before everything was cured. Unfortunately, what that means is now I have to redo it, and well, hopefully it holds. But let that be a lesson to you guys. Make sure the epoxy is all cured before you start playing around with it. This stuff, obviously, it broke when it hit the ground. I mean, this stuff is just made of plastic. So just be aware of that when you're making your own at home. So lesson learned. Maybe again, I don't know. This might have happened before. Either way, we'll put it all together and show you the finished product right away. So I'm back inside, gluing some of the broken pieces back together. Not the worst thing that could happen, I guess, but I can't glue it out in the shop because it's cold, so I have to come inside to do all my epoxy gluing because, well, it turns out the epoxy doesn't like the cold. It doesn't cure if it's in the minuses. So let's get this all glued together and move forward. So for the texture here, I think it turned out okay. Obviously, your results may vary depending on the rubberized coating you use. Mine ended up a little bit bubbly and textured. I kind of like how it ended up. Obviously, like I mentioned, I had a break. I fixed it up, but yeah. Let's paint it up here, see what it looks like as a finished product. We're using some sea green and black. So all we're going to do is paint it up, light it up, and show you how it works. Let's get to painting. So now I'm going to use, again, I'm basing this off of the painting here, or the drawing. I'm going to put in the highlights of the green over here. I'm just going to put that in, again, dry brushing all this in. Basically all I'm doing for dry brushing is get a little bit of paint on the brush, get most of it off, just kind of wipe it off on whatever, and just kind of use the dry brush to go in where I want it to go. So now let's get to doing the sea green. Alright, so we got the sword all painted. I'm going to cut off a strip of some leather for the handle. I'm going to wrap it up, glue it on, and we'll show you the finished product. Here we go. So a few things about Sword of Cthulhu here. Again, this is based off of art for Cthulhu. I'll leave the link for the art down below along with the artist's name. I don't want to take credit for the original design for this guy. I just made it 3Dified and made it a sword because it looks really cool. I really like how this turned out. I did have some issues. Obviously it came apart. Make sure that you're curing your epoxy in room temperature, not in the cold, because it does not cure in the cold. Then you run into issues. I gave it some texture on this build, so you'll have to look closer, and you know, with the final shot products you could kind of see it. You kind of see the stipply orange peely. Normally that's a sign of a bad paint job. I tried to do that on purpose on this one with some rubberized undercoating, just to give Cthulhu kind of a more under ocean feel to him. So that's basically just a rubberized coating that you would normally use for under cars or truck beds, for example. I sprayed that on as a base coat, then layered my paints on top of that. So if you're looking for that kind of texture, that's the one way you could definitely do that. Or alternatively, you could literally just take your rattle can of primer, paint, whatever, and just layer it on really thick. You'll also probably get a similar result. But it's up to you. I gave it a leather wrap here. On the original design, it kind of has one of these little dangles on the end, so I left that. It does come in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 parts. So if and when you're printing your own, it does come in 5 parts for you there. I just really like how Cthulhu turned out on this sword here. Really happy with this guy. I did also end up doing a lot of dry brushing on this guy. All the black and green and those are all dry brushed on, just for kind of a underwater effect, if you will. You know, weathered underwater. And you know, for the photos I used some backlighting with LEDs, obviously. So nothing too crazy. I really enjoyed this build. You know, I don't know how much demand there is for Cthulhu right now nowadays, especially now that 2020 is done. You know, there was all these memes about Cthulhu coming at the end of 2020, but he's not here, or is he? Well, let me know what you think. If you like these 8-bit creations brought into the 3D world, if you want to see more of this stuff, I'm definitely thinking about making more of it. What retro games would you want to see stuff like this from? You know, some things come to mind. We kept on talking about Chrono Trigger when we were playing Cthulhu Saves Christmas, so who knows, that might be one thing. I know there's Chrono Cross, which actually has kind of a 3D model in it, but you know, Chrono Trigger is more, I'll say, historical, and when it comes to especially the art, the 8-bit style. So thanks again for watching. If you enjoyed this video, hit that subscribe button down there below. Or if you want to follow me on any of these social media websites, you can get daily updates on the projects I'm working on. Thanks again for watching. I'm Tony, the Blacksmithing Gamer, where every week we're making things from the games we love.